Welcome to our Microsoft Virtual Academy on how to increase your productivity and security with Microsoft's Enterprise Mobility Solutions. My name is Andrew Conway. I'm a Senior Director of Product Marketing at Microsoft. I'm part of the Cloud and Enterprise team, and I'm joined today by
Maura Hammeroff. I'm also part of the Cloud and Enterprise team in the Enterprise Mobility Marketing Group.
Okay, so without further ado, let's move on. As we think about what's happening out there today in your estate of devices, clouds, etc., what we're starting to see is that people are more and more mobile. They're working from more and more different places. They're using a number of different devices, etc. And at the same time, your applications are moving more and more to the cloud. And so as we think about this mobile-first, cloud-first world that we're living in today, what are some of the things that really describe it and that really capture what's going on? The first thing here is that there's a very large percentage now of workers who are mixing personal and work contexts on the same device. So they may be doing personal stuff on a computer that's been issued to them by their company, or they may be bringing in their own device or phone and expecting to do email or collaboration tasks. And so increasingly these two activities are mixed together. The second thing is that more and more employees are using SaaS applications maybe without the sanction of IT. And so they're signing up for cloud-based applications that help them get their work done. And in IT, there's very little visibility into what's happening there. Visibility into where data's going, visibility into which accounts they're using to sign up for these applications. And that's putting corporate data at risk. And then finally, as you think about cybercrime, as you think about some of the more public breaches that have happened recently, it turns out that identity and your users' credentials are turning out to be a means to an end for cyber criminals. So some 75% or more of breaches now are being traced to weak or stolen, compromised credentials. And what you'll see as we come to talk about our enterprise mobility solutions is that identity and protecting your user's identity is really central to the approach that we're taking here at Microsoft today. And so with that in mind, what is the landscape that we see today, and how is this important for you as you think about securing mobility, as you think about securing your users, but also securing devices, the applications, and then the data itself? Some 3 years ago now, we moved our landmark PC management and mobile device management solution, System Center Configuration Manager, from a device-centric paradigm where it was very focused on targeting individual devices in your estate to a user-centric paradigm where we're really focused on handling an individual user and making sure that we target the applications and the updates to that particular user, no matter what device that they're on. Now what we've seen with the advent of mobile device management solutions is that companies and other vendors out there have started to focus on managing a broader set of devices. And indeed, we have done that too with our cloud service, Microsoft Intune. But what we're starting to see now in this landscape is that really the focus is starting to move from just managing a device to managing the application experiences on the device and then managing the data itself. And that's where our approach is very different. We've invested heavily in delivering leading mobile application management solutions that protect data on your employees' devices, contain that data, and help employees do collaboration and do their email on your device in a secure way without data leaking off that device or leaking into personal applications in unintended ways. And we go even further. We go beyond that to the level of the data itself. And what we do is we protect with capabilities like Azure Rights Management actually in the data itself. And so we're encrypting that data. We have a key that travels with that data. And we have a set of use rights that apply to that particular individual or group that have been set by IT that really control what can happen with that data. And so if I forward it to someone else, they can only open it if they have rights to it. They can only say, edit that data if they have rights to edit, etc. And so we have ways now to protect mobility, not just in the frame of a device, but most importantly at that level of the application and that level of the data. And I'll come back to the fact that all of that is keyed off of the end user's identity. So Microsoft has a huge heritage in identity. Microsoft delivered Windows Server Active Directory, which is now in place in some 95% of organizations as really the de facto standard of corporate identity. And what we're doing with our enterprise mobility management solutions now is bringing that identity to the cloud with Azure AD and really beginning all of our solutions with identity as the core and as identity as the control plane of what we do. Now, we've started here in delivering solutions that are primarily for an organization's employees. But as we extend here now, we're also delivering solutions that protect your interactions with business partners, so partners that you work with, consultants that may be working for your organization and need access to your applications or systems, and then finally your customers. So most recently, we have shipped capabilities in preview like Azure Active Directory Business to Consumer, where we're actually helping you protect your customers' identities as they engage with you through applications that you ship, applications and experiences that you make available on your website. So all of these capabilities come together as part of Microsoft's Enterprise Mobility solution. They come together as part of our Enterprise Mobility suite specifically. And this is really how we deliver capabilities to you in this mobile-first and cloud-first world. Let's talk a little bit more about what makes our solution different and what makes the solution unique and capable in this world of increasingly mobile people and applications moving to the cloud. The first thing is that we have invested heavily in moving corporate identity to the cloud. Today, we have millions of unique directories in Microsoft Azure Active Directory. Microsoft Azure Active Directory underpins all of the cloud services from Microsoft, and we have hundreds of millions of accounts in Microsoft Azure Active Directory. Now, some of the benefits that you see as you move to a cloud directory are that you can offer services like single sign-on to different applications. You can offer cost-saving capabilities around your identities, things like self-service group management, self-service password reset, that really allow your users to take care of basic identity tasks without bothering the help desk. And that's a significant cost saving for IT. But beyond that, identity, and specifically identity as it moves to the cloud now, becomes a control plane. Remember that I talked earlier about the fact that cyber criminals are targeting your end users. They're targeting credentials. And as we move into this world where applications are in the cloud and people and devices are mobile, it's super important that you have a control plane in identity to manage access to your corporate assets. At Microsoft, we refer to that as conditional access. What we mean there at a very high level is that you're managing the access that you give to your corporate sources of data and information, things like email, files, your SharePoint sites, etc., and other applications. You're managing that access and controlling that access based on a set of policies. For instance, who is the user? What group are they in? What IP address are they coming in for? What's been happening on their device recently? Is their device managed? Is their device healthy, etc.? So we're able to establish policies and then use those policies to manage access to corporate assets. So these are all benefits that come when you select an enterprise mobility solution that's centered on one common identity and on a huge investment in cloud identity. This identity control plane is something that we'll come back to and refer to as we move throughout the presentation. The next big capability and the next big difference with Microsoft's approach here is that we have focused on delivering great end user experiences across devices. And so we work together with the Office team and the Office 365 team to ensure that we're bringing your employees the gold standard of productivity across all of their devices. Not just Windows devices as you would expect, but also across iOS and Android. And so there is no other mobility solution out there that manages Office in the way that we do. We have unique capabilities to protect your users as they interact with corporate email and files across devices. So Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, etc. Across all of these devices, we're protecting users and guiding them so that they don't mistakenly take corporate data and land it into personal contexts or save it into personal file stores where it may become vulnerable to attack or leakage. Beyond the Office capabilities, we're also taking a super comprehensive approach and a cross-platform approach to how we deliver this solution. As I noted, we're delivering this across Windows and all different Windows devices, so phones, PCs, tablets, etc. But more than that, we're also delivering it across iOS, across Android. And then it's not just about our first-party cloud service applications, things like Office 365 or Dynamics. It's really about extending these capabilities to all of the applications that your end users are using in the cloud. So we deliver single sign-on to somewhere over 2,500 different SaaS applications, many of those with deeply integrated standards-based federation and capabilities like provisioning and deprovisioning of identities. And so as you go out and identify unsanctioned SaaS use in your environment, you're able to bring that under control, bring it under the control of a single employee identity that's common across on-premises and cloud, and then manage that and use that as a way to control access. We're also letting you bring on-premises applications to this experience and to this cloud control point through capabilities like the Azure Active Directory application proxy. So you can take an on-premises SharePoint site, for instance, and publish that up through the cloud control point and use the cloud and a cloud identity as a way to control access and get insights into potential security issues. We're also letting you take applications that maybe are not being rewritten for a mobile context. So think about applications that you might be running on a session host today on Windows Server. You might be using Microsoft's remote desktop protocol to remote into those. We're making these remote desktop apps available on the cloud as well via services like Azure Remote App. And so you can basically take applications, have them hosted in the cloud with no need for on-premises infrastructure, and then have your employees remote into them across a range of different devices. And finally, what I'd like to highlight from almost from an architectural point of view here is that we're making a huge bet not just on cloud, but also on hybrid. And so there's huge utility that comes with the cloud, first of all. If you're selecting a cloud solution to manage what are effectively a set of cloud-connected devices and a set of cloud applications, clearly that makes a whole lot of sense because you're not doing things like trying to route access control decisions back on premises, like some other solutions out there in the market might ask you to do. As we take an identity to the cloud and that control plane to the cloud, devices can be managed and access to applications can be managed directly from that cloud solution. We're also working with the existing investments that you've made today, both on premises and in your skills. So think about Active Directory today and how we make it easy to connect that to the cloud with Azure Active Directory Connect, and then System Center Configuration Manager, which is a ubiquitous now product for managing PCs on premises. We connect that with our cloud-based solution, Microsoft Intune, and you can deploy that in a hybrid way if you wish. So it's cloud, it's hybrid, it's very easy and straightforward to set up and connect the two. And then ongoing, you don't have to do things like apply updates or worry about which version you're on or whether you're supported. With a set of cloud services as part of Microsoft's Enterprise Mobility Suite, it's really possible to stay up to date with all of the new capabilities, all of the new features, new cloud applications that are being added, and then new devices that are being added as well. And so with that overview, what I'd like to do now is go into a little bit deeper level of detail around some of the capabilities that we'll be talking about today. The first one is really around managed mobile productivity. How do you ensure that, especially in information worker scenarios, that employees can be productive on their mobile devices, be they corporate-owned devices or be they BYO devices, around activities like email, manipulating files, productivity, etc. Secondly, how can you ensure that you're giving your employees access to all of the applications they need? SaaS applications, mobile apps on the device, on-premises applications, Windows applications that you may be running on session hosts with technologies like Azure Remote App. How can you bring that all together in one solution? And so we'll spend some time there too. And then finally, security, and what we've been referring to as identity-driven security. As we look at these new attacks, these new breaches, it's incredibly important to be focused on that end user identity and where attackers might go from there to drive more security in your organization. And so we'll spend some time driving in here on identity-driven security and how you can go after some of the more advanced threats that may be impacting your company and your environment today. As we drill on managed mobile productivity, email, etc., I do want to use the example of one of our customers in Eastern Ontario, the Catholic District School Board. This school board is using Intune and using our cloud services to deliver BYOD not just to their staff, but also to their students across a broad set of capabilities. So 13,000 students across 50 different schools. And they've started now to acquire and use 2,500 seats of our cloud-based mobile device and mobile application management solution in Intune, part of EMS. And they're well on their way now to enrolling 450 board-owned iOS devices into the Intune service. So this is a really good example of how a company has taken what was primarily to date an on-premises approach and moved this to the cloud. So how do we think about managed email and managed mobile productivity? I think the most important thing to note here is that we're really looking at some 4 different levels of protection that come together in our solution. The first one is identity. How can you ensure that someone really is who they say they are? And how can you establish that definitively on a device when people have multiple different devices? And so here we're using technologies like multi-factor authentication to ensure that when someone connects from a new device or a new location, the identity system is smart enough to go require a second factor to understand who they are. Secondly, protecting the device. So protecting at that frame of the device, and for a corporate device where that's appropriate, using technologies like mobile device management as part of Intune and our Enterprise Mobility Suite to manage that. Thirdly, applications. So we think about the Office applications today. Microsoft is the only vendor that's deeply managing and securing the Office mobile apps across devices, iOS, Android, and Windows. And so we can do things like restrict the cut, copy, paste of information out of a corporate experience and into a personal app like the Notes app or Twitter or Facebook on the device. And then finally, we can also protect at the level of where that information is stored. And so if I open files from a corporate file source, like my OneDrive for Business, I'm protected from then saving those off into a personal file storage account like my OneDrive or my Box or my Dropbox. And then finally, protecting at the level of the data itself. As you can see from the graphic we had shown here, really doing that rights protection, that encryption of the file. So the protection travels with that file, it's persistent, and it's keyed off that end user's identity and the identities of those users that the document may be forwarded to. Let's drill in at a little bit deeper level of detail here and drill in really on what we've referred to as conditional access. And so as I noted earlier, the idea of conditional access, as the name suggests, is making access to content on a device conditional on a set of policies. And so in this case, there's a policy verification step that happens with the device. Is the device managed? Is the device compliant? You can really ensure that the device is securely booted, that you can attest that the device is secure and that the boot path that happened for that device had not been tampered with in any way. And so as you think about establishing device compliance, you can then make access control decisions based on that health state. And so in this case, you can say, unless the device is healthy and booted correctly and is compliant with my MDM service, then Office files will not flow onto that device. And so Office 365, that could be your Exchange files, could be your email basically, could be your SharePoint files, they will not flow onto the device. So that's the initial step, the so-called conditional access. Once the information, though, is on the device itself, we think about our mobile application management and how that works. And one of the big differences here with how Microsoft's approaching this, with the Office applications in particular, is that we're supporting multi-identities. And so if I'm using Word today on my iPad in a personal context, then there are no corporate controls. And my personal experience is not messed with in any way by IT. Now, if I log in with my corporate credentials, if I log in with my Office 365 account, then there are a set of controls that come from IT that protect this experience. And so I have this multi-identity support that's built into the application that's very different than other contexts that you might see from other vendors, where they're asking you to separate different containers on the device and have a set of personal apps, a set of corporate apps. In this case, we have a set of corporate applications keyed off of that corporate login versus personally logging into the same apps. And they are brought into a managed ecosystem on the device that's separate than the personal apps. So we have a set of managed apps on the device that in this case are managed by our Enterprise Mobility Suite and managed by Intune. There's a whole set of capabilities that come along with that. We can manage and secure the productivity then inside these corporate applications. You can extend this to your existing line of business applications using technologies like application wrapping. And then we're shipping a whole set of additional apps for file types that are non-Office file types. And so if there are PDFs, if there are AV files, video files, image files, whatever it is that you need to view or manipulate on the device, then we protect those too through these secure Intune applications. And these applications just come down from the public store, and then there's a relationship that's established between those applications and the Intune service that manages them in an ongoing way. What are some of the things that might be protected then in this context? If we look at our mobile application management solution, let's say that you receive an email and it has a Excel attachment in it that has some important information in it, some secure information in it. Now, what you can do with Intune then is manage the applications on the device in which you'd be able to open that file. And so as IT, you can say, well, you're just going to be able to open that file in Excel. And then when you open it in Excel and you copy some information, you'd be prevented by the solution from pasting that into a personal app. So you may say, well, what happens if I paste it into the Word app and now it's in a Word document? Perhaps I took some earnings data, copied it out of Excel, pasted it into a Word app. I'd be prevented from saving it to a personal file storage application. But then the application would allow me to save this into a business file storage application like OneDrive for Business. So we're managing here not just the copy-paste actions, but we're also managing where you can save personal data. And this is a great solution for IT to protect employee productivity, especially across BYO devices or across non-Windows devices, where you won't have these capabilities built directly into the operating system. I'd like to drill in now at that next layer of protection. We've covered managing the device, managing the mobile application management experience on the device. What about the data itself? Now, with Azure Rights Management, which is a capability of the Enterprise Mobility Suite, you can protect any file and share with anyone and protect at the level of the file itself. So encrypt, have a key that travels with that file, and then this is a cloud service. So you face none of the overhead of having to deploy these capabilities on-premise or having to manage your own public key infrastructure on-premise. That's all taken care of in the cloud. And if you wish, you can also bring your own key to that solution through our BYOK capabilities. And then through enlightening a broader set of applications here for rights management, you're able to open those files, view them, manipulate them in applications across a number of different devices. And because this is a cloud service, we can go one beyond that and actually have you as an end user be able to track where your documents go through capabilities like the document tracking feature of Azure Rights Management. With document tracking, you can see, as the name suggests, where your document goes, who tries to open it, whether they succeed or fail in opening that, and you're also able to remotely revoke that document if you wish as well. And so with that, what I'd like to do is hand over to Maura. No better way to understand these capabilities than actually see them demonstrated. So I'm going to hand over to Maura now, and she's going to take us through a short demonstration on some of our managed mobile productivity capabilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. So let's start with the user experience and making sure that we showcase how easy it is for users to use our solutions. And I'm going to start here with a personal device. So this is a brand new iPad that I'm going to start, and I'm going to try to join my corporate email. That's the first thing I want to do with my personal device, is to access my personal email. And with that, what I'm going to do is I am going to get started. Let's skip through the tutorial, and I'm going to add an account. I'm going to add my corporate account, my single identity with my corporation. So let me go ahead, Office 365. And let's add my account here. And sign in. Let's see what happens when I sign in. I try to sign in. You're going to see that it's going to check my identity. And if I actually type my password correctly, and it's going to tell me to enroll my device and bring my device under management. You can see the branded experience, so I know it's my company, and I know I can trust that I can actually enroll my personal device and bring it under management. I'm going to get started here, and I'm going to enroll the device. But I already brought here another device that's already enrolled, so I can show you what the experience looks like in a managed device. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to this other iPad that I have here. And in this other iPad, you're going to be able to see all of my managed applications, all of my productivity applications. You can see here I have OneDrive, I have Word, I have the managed browsers, I have all of my applications here. I'm going to go ahead and show some of the experiences that Andrew talked to you about dual identity, protecting data, while enabling collaboration. So let's go ahead and get started. You can see it's a managed application. Here's my corporate email. But with Office Dual Identity, you can see I have both my personal email and my corporate account here. I'm going to stay in my corporate account for the moment. And I'm going to go ahead and look at this. This is a confidential email that was sent to me, and I can read this email here. This is another email that I have, and it's also an email that was protected through Azure Rights Management. And I'm going to go ahead and open this document here. As you can see, it carries all of the permissions, and only allowed users can visualize this document. Let me go back here to the mail experience. As Andrew mentioned before, we're going beyond just protecting the document and sharing a protected document, but allowing the users to actually know what's happening with that document, control if it's being abused. And this is also a productivity tool in case of a B2B collaboration, for example. I can track if the vendors that I share this document with, that they actually opened the email. So it's both a security measure to protect the data and track abuse, as well as a productivity tool. So I'm going to go ahead here. This is a document that I share. It has been protected, and I'm tracking the use of this document, and I'm going to go ahead. You can also see that this is the managed browser experience. So I'm accessing this site through a managed browser experience, and I can see how many users viewed my document. I can see how many users have denied. I'm actually interested in see who are those users and what's going on, what's wrong with the document that's being shared. And I can see a number of users that should have not had this document. I can go in the map piece here, and I can see it in the map, and I can see where this is happening. It's very weird. We're based here in North America. We have no partners in Australia and 5 attempts in Australia. There's something clearly going wrong with this document. I can go ahead and just revoke the access to this document. So this is the experience of a protected document that was shared within the company or outside of the company. I can view, I can track, and I can interact with the document. So now, let's talk a little bit about the mobile application management capabilities that Andrew shared with you. Also, again, in Outlook, same experience that you have for your personal and corporate account. I'm going to go ahead here and click on this email, and you see that there's a document here attached. I'm going to go ahead and open it again. So it's opening the document. This is not a protected document. This is a document that's shared, that was shared with me. I'm going to try to go ahead and save this into my personal account. I'm going to go here and duplicate. And I'm going to try to share to my Dropbox. As I hit save, you're going to see your administrator does not allow saving to personal locations. So I cannot save this file to a personal storage. So I started with logging in with my identity into my personal device. My identity allowed me to join and enroll my device and bring this device under management. The device is now protected and being managed by the company, but only my corporate data is being managed by the company, and I cannot share my corporate data with my personal applications. With that, Andrew, back to you.
Thank you, Mara. So that was our managed mobile productivity solution that comes as part of our Enterprise Mobility Suite, plus the Office mobile app experience that you saw deeply integrated on the iOS device in this case. Now we'd like to switch gears a little bit and talk about the full range of different applications that are available that we're protecting through our Enterprise Mobility solution. So let me share a little bit about one of our customers, iBreed IT. So iBreed IT, cloud-based solution that helps plant breeders, researchers plan, manage, analyze breeding programs. So super important work to drive more successful plant breeding. And so these programs can last many years, hundreds of thousands of trials, massive amounts of data. And so iBreed was looking for a way where they could readily publish existing applications out to other users, out across different labs, etc. And so their application is actually now delivered via Azure Remote App. So Remote App, a great way to take existing applications, ones that you've been running on Windows Server, Windows applications that will run on Server Session Host, and then remote to those in the public cloud. So that's Azure Remote App. But let's talk about the full breadth of different applications and how you would manage access to them today. Let's start with single sign-on to SaaS applications. And so if we think about the full map of different apps that you're delivering now on that side of your IT department, in many cases you're signing up for cloud-based applications from third-party vendors in this case. These are not Microsoft applications, clearly. We're talking about applications here from SAP, from Workday, from Box, from Concur, etc. With Azure Active Directory, we're giving you single sign-on to those applications. So they're in a gallery. It's very easy to grant access to them, manage that access, require a second factor for accessing these apps if you wish, perhaps when you're accessing them from outside a known range of IP addresses that would correspond to your corporate environment. The next step here is, what about line of business applications that you have on premises today? As I mentioned, existing on-premises SharePoint farms, for instance, that you may not have been migrating to SharePoint Online. Well, we can handle those applications too through something called the Azure Active Directory App Proxy. So this gives you a way to publish these apps up through the cloud control plane, and so that, again, you can manage access to these applications, track it, maybe understand where there is anomalous login activity based on data that we're getting against the cloud, that we're getting against Azure Active Directory. And we're getting benefit then from the full scale of this cloud directory and understanding all of the activity that's happening against it across all of the many millions of unique directories and hundreds of millions of users that we have in that cloud directory. And then finally, as I noted, Microsoft Azure Remote App. So a cloud-based capability to deliver remote apps directly to any device via our Microsoft RDP client. And so with that, I'd actually like to hand back to Mara. She's going to take us through another demo now on how you manage access to all of these different types of applications.
Thank you, Andrew. So I'm going to start here in the Azure Active Directory Premium Console, and I'm going to share with you how easy it is to actually add applications, whether SaaS applications, web applications, or on-premise applications, bring them under management and single sign-on and make it available to your entire organization. So I'm going to go ahead here. I'm in the Applications tab, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add an application. You can see here, I have three options. I can add an application that my organization is developing. That's a cloud application like a portal, a company portal, or some other application. An application from the gallery, or publish an on-prem application to be accessed from outside of the network. I'm going to go ahead and start with add an application from the gallery. We have over 2,500 applications in the gallery. So I am going to go ahead here and I'm going to type Salesforce. Go ahead and do this. And I am going to click on Salesforce and I'm going to add Salesforce. You're going to see it's a very simple process that enables me to provide single sign-on access to Salesforce to all of my employees. And I'm going to start right there configuring single sign-on. As you can see, I'm going to be able to use Microsoft Azure Active Directory single sign-on, allowing single sign-on to all my employees. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. This is the URL, the personalized URL that my company has to access Salesforce. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And in the next step, what's happening here is I have to download certificate to establish federation with Salesforce to allow users to be provisioned from Azure Active Directory directly into single sign-on. I'm just going to go ahead and confirm that I have the right certificates, and I'm going to hit next. And as you can see, I'm going through those steps to easily integrate all my users and offer them single sign-on in federation with Salesforce. I'm going to go ahead here and hit OK, and that's it. I am done. I've done. The next steps are account provisioning and assign accounts. But I'm going to go ahead here and show another example of how we can bring other types of applications under management and provide single sign-on to all of my employees. And I'm going to actually add an application that my organization is developing. I am going to add the company portal here. Go ahead here and click next. The URL, company portal. And there you go. And it's pretty simple. At that point, all I have to do, again, is the same thing, provisioning and add users to that. With a simple few clicks, I'm able to give my employees access to thousands of single SaaS applications. I can publish an on-prem application and give access outside of my network, as well as applications that my company is building in the cloud. So as Andrew mentioned before, this is one set of applications, but there are a number of on-prem applications that your users might still be using. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and actually switch back to my iPad and show you an iOS experience of accessing remotely an application that's published via Azure Remote App. So let me go ahead here and click on Visio, and it's connecting back to my network. So Visio, there's no native experience of Visio in iOS. And here you can see I remote into my application, and I have a full Visio experience here, including I can move the cars around. I can do a lot of things as a full featured. So this shows you the variety of ways to which we can give employees access to application in a single sign-on experience. And if you remember, this is the same iPad that I've used before, that I've enrolled under management, that I have all my native applications. I also have access to those same SaaS applications that I am posting through Azure Active Directory via my apps portal, and as well as remote apps. So this is the full experience that we have, bringing you access and management to all of your applications. Back to you, Andrew.
Thanks, Mara. So there you saw the full range of different apps that are available against the Enterprise Mobility Suite, published and connected through Azure Active Directory there for single sign-on, for controlling conditional access, and then for subsequent security reporting. And so with that, let's switch gears again and move more in the direction of security. If you think about the context that your users are in today, they're interacting with different devices, they're interacting with different workloads, different content, different files, different on-premises resources, SaaS applications, etc. And what's happening now is that this network, this expansion of relationships is really just picking up pace. And all of this is keyed off of whatever identity, whatever set of credentials your end user is using to go after a particular application, a particular set of resources they're just logging in, etc. But what this means is if something's compromised, if there's some attack, if there's something that, if someone is breached, then we're living in this super connected state where attackers are going to try and then move laterally, taking a user identity, maybe then stealing some credentials or some hashed password or ticket, move from there, move across different resources and go after those resources and try and steal corporate IP or personally identifiable information, other corporate secrets or resources, etc. So in this environment, how do you really protect against these kinds of attacks? And how do you avail yourselves of some of the capabilities that are coming and that are available now as part of what we refer to as identity-driven security? Now, within our overall mobility offering, at the core, as we've said multiple times today now, is Azure Active Directory, our internet-scale cloud directory with millions of directories from many, many, many different organizations and hundreds of millions of end users. What we're doing every single day against this and our consumer identity assets is applying machine learning techniques, analytics, to understand really what's going on and look for patterns of attack or breach. And so this is the first thing. This results then in a rich set of security reporting that we can expose through your Azure Active Directory tenant. And again, not just against first-party services that you may be running against that tenant, but all of the services that you have established single sign-on with. And within that, we're also offering new capabilities like privileged identity management. So you can get a very clear look at all of the accounts in your environment that have privileged access. Admin accounts, maybe admin accounts that vendors have used that have now become dormant or that you've forgotten about and that may present a potential security risk. And so in addition to reporting on what's happening out there for you, we're also helping you reduce that surface area for attack against privileged accounts. The second thing here is that security of accessing the applications. We've talked today about conditional access. We've also shown you things like multi-factor authentication, where you can require a second factor, like a phone call or a text message, before someone's let into an application on a device, based on the device, based on where they're logging in from, etc. And then we're also making available discovery tools as well, so that for the first time you can go look across your environment with capabilities like Azure Active Directory Cloud App Discovery and see SaaS applications that are being used broadly in your environment that you may not have visibility into. And then finally, we're helping you to actually go and detect threats. And so on premises today, with our new product, Microsoft Advanced Threat Analytics, or ATA, we're giving you insight into what's happening in your Active Directory and then exposing that in a very easy to consume social media-like timeline. And so you can do away with a lot of the false positives and a lot of the white noise that you see in traditional security products today and really get to the heart of what's happening against your on-premises Active Directory. More on the on-premises solution later. Now let's expand a little bit more on what we have in Azure Active Directory today. So this is our Azure Active Directory premium offering. And our goal here is really to monitor and protect the access that your employees have to all different sorts of resources here. And so we're building in security features into this product. The multi-factor authentication that I already covered, but also security reporting that's going to do things like track a user who might be logging in say, Buenos Aires, and then 2 minutes later they might be trying to log in Paris or something. So clearly something's going on there. It's our so-called impossible travel or anomalous login report. We also look at logins from known bad IP addresses, where we get data from our digital crimes unit about botnets that we can combine with our Azure AD dataset and give you insight into logins that are looking suspect. And then you can take action against these. So we make available a set of reports, and we also expose a reporting API. And so you can go and consume this data against your Azure Active Directory tenant. Now, we've had this available in Azure Active Directory Premium, which is part of our Enterprise Mobility Suite now, for about 18 months. As we spoke to customers about it, one of the big things that customers asked us for was, can you take these capabilities and deliver us something similar against my on-premises Active Directory? Active Directory is in some 95% of companies and is really a de facto standard now for corporate identity. And so it's proven as a super useful place to go look and say, okay, is there anomalous behavior that's maybe happening in my on-premises directory? And that was really the genesis of Microsoft Advanced Threat Analytics. This is an acquisition that we made in Israel at the end of last calendar year, and this is now generally available to all of our customers. So what Microsoft Advanced Threat Analytics does is you set it up in your environment, you establish a port mirroring relationship between it and AD. So the most important thing to note here is that we're not asking you to install anything on your Active Directory. And so this product remains invisible to any attacker who might be attacking your Active Directory. And so they don't know that they have someone looking at them. And there's a number of different capabilities that come together in this product. One of them is behavior analytics. So user behavioral analytics. This means we're looking at your end user's behavior. And over a period of some weeks, as you establish the solution, switch it on, and it starts to build a map or a graph of what's normal entity behavior activity. It can go see and see what looks normal and see what doesn't look normal. So for instance, I might be accessing resources from a particular set of machines in the work environment. What ATA is going to notice is maybe if I'm logging in from a completely different set of machines, accessing completely new resources, and doing that maybe at times of day where I don't normally access them. Or it's going to go look and see that someone's tried to brute force a password, maybe on an old terminal services box that you might have in your environment or something. And so it's looking at abnormal activity. But then it's also combining that with information that it has about known security vulnerabilities, like pass the hash, pass the ticket. And then it's also looking for potential configuration issues in the way that you've set up your your on-premises Active Directory. And then finally, it will also, if you wish, take a feed from existing security information and event management systems. It combines then all of this together and produces this into what looks like a social media feed, something that looks like your Facebook news feed or a Twitter feed, and gives you insight into potentially bad behavior, anomalous behavior, things that look insecure in your environment. And so that's Microsoft Advanced Threat Analytics, and that comes now as part of the Enterprise Mobility Suite. And so with that, I'm going to hand back again to Maura, and she's going to take us through a demonstration around some of our identity-driven security capabilities.
Thank you, Andrew. So I'm going to go ahead and start here in my console again, and I'll show you a few different options that Andrew mentioned before to protect applications that have sensitive data. So I'll start with MFA. So I'll go back to the Salesforce application that I added before. Let me go ahead here. I'm going to click there, and I'm going to go into Configure, and you're going to see how easy it is for me to go ahead and enable multi-factor authentication. That you can allow that based on users, based on applications, based on location, and we're working more and more to bring more of the technology and more of the data that we get into Azure Active Directory combined with machine learning to inform our users to better select things like multi-factor authentication, to only enforce it when it's really needed. So if I'm always accessing Salesforce from my work computer, from my desk within the network, I don't need to be prompted via MFA. If I'm accessing through my home network and I'm doing everything that I normally do, again, I don't have to. But if I am at a different location, or if there's any possibility that's actually not me trying to log into Salesforce, then I'm going to be prompted with an MFA. The other very important thing is a type of application that's very sensitive these days are social applications. There's a number of breaches that happens through social media and applications. That's another great thing that we have in Azure Active Directory in enhancing the security for sensitive apps. For example, this is my corporate Twitter account, and you're going to see that I am going to assign it to users. As I'm doing this, I'm going to go ahead and do users, and I'm going to go ahead and select any random users from my network here, for example, this person here, and I'm going to assign this person to it. And I can have the credentials provisioned on behalf of the user. So this user actually don't know the password of our corporate Twitter. So this this is a feature called password rollover, allows you to set the frequency in which you want this, the admin sets the frequency in which he wants this password to be changed. It's a complex password and it's not shared with the employee. So it reduces the risks of leak the password. So those are some of the security features that we have to prevent any kind of breach or any kind of attack. But I'm going to go back now to the point that Andrew was making before about how we help prevent attacks and the attack breaches that may be happening in our network. And I'm going to switch over to our dashboard. So I'm switching back over here to our dashboards, and as you can see here, we have a number of reports that we pull that information. We pull leaked credentials, we pull sign-ins from multiple geographies. We pull a number of information that can be showing that there's something wrong and there might be somebody attacking, that some of our users might have had their credentials compromised. So let me go ahead here and I'm going to go into sign-ins from multiple geographies. As you're going to be able to see in this report, a single user cannot be logging across the ocean basically at the same time. So if you look at Jennifer, for example, first attempt to sign in from New York, second from Bangkok. Estimated travel time, 20 minutes. Time between sign-ins, 4 minutes. That's impossible. So I can go ahead and click on Jennifer, and it's going to give me options to take an action. I can simply block, I can reset the password, or I can challenge Jennifer with multi-factor authentication. So that's another way where we're bringing the additional the intelligence to detect the threats and the technologies that we have from a security standpoint to make sure that only the right users access the right resources. Those are our capabilities for the cloud identities. Going back to what Andrew said, what about on-prem? So let's go and see what looks like Microsoft Advanced Threat Analytics dashboard, and let's see what it looks like. So we're pulling here the ATA console, and you're going to see right away that it's a nice Facebook-like feed that I can see and monitor what's happening in my network, from an attempt to a brute force attack to anomalous and suspicious activities that probably is because Michael Dubinsky's identity was stolen. So as you can see here, he accesses through 2 normal computers, but there's 6 abnormal computers. This is based on the pattern that we have learned from his logins into Azure. Into Active Directory, and the deep packet inspections that we do, and all of the other information that we bring in from other resources, and combine this to determine what a normal pattern is. So I'm going to go ahead here. I can see 6 abnormal computers, and I can see which computers are those. You can see that one of them is an external vendor, for example. I can also look at abnormal resources, and then you can go ahead here and see abnormal resources. So this, to me, show that probably his identity is compromised. As Andrew said, we also have common attacks. We have a database of common attacks, so we can identify and we can prevent that from happening. So with that, thank you, and I'll pass it back to you, Andrew.
Thank you, Mara. So our Enterprise Mobility Suite now from Microsoft has been available for coming up on 1.5 years, and we've seen an incredible response. Over 20,000 customers have signed on and started using the Enterprise Mobility Suite, and we've seen almost a 6x growth in our install base of users. And these are just some of the customers that I'm showing right here who've signed on and are using Enterprise Mobility Suite. Big customers like Godiva, Chocolatier, Hitachi, Whole Foods, Subaru, Spa, etc. So an incredible response that we've seen out there from companies, from peers of yours who are using these capabilities now from the cloud, from Microsoft. So let's just start to recap now what we have. So as we think about the Enterprise Mobility Suite, I think it's useful for me to just quickly recap what's included. The Enterprise Mobility Suite includes 3 cloud services running on Microsoft Azure, and then the advanced threat analytics capability that we added in August that Mara just took you through. So Microsoft Azure Active Directory Premium, This is, as the name suggests, our premium set of identity and access management tools for IT, building on top of that cloud scale directory to give you things like single sign-on, self-service for your employees, and all of the rich security reporting that you saw demonstrated today. Microsoft Intune, our mobile device and app management solution, deeply integrated with Office 365 and delivering you experiences with Office mobile apps across devices that no one else can deliver. And then protection at the layer of the data itself with Microsoft Azure Rights Management. Our premium offer now that is included in EMS includes new features like document tracking. And then advanced threat analytics, as I noted. The acquisition of what was formerly known as Aerato, giving you that ability and insight to be more secure against your on-premises Active Directory and really understand what's going on in your environment. So again, to recap, what we're providing here is not just an MDM solution or not just a set of identity and access management tools from the cloud, but rather a deeply integrated solution across these services that's allowing you to protect at multiple layers. And so we have that identity and access management capability that's securing your users. We have the ability to then protect the device, apply MDM policies to a device, and then also protect at that frame of the apps centered around Office 365 and the Office mobile apps. And then finally, that fourth important layer of setting policy and providing protection at the level of the file, encrypting the file, delivering those use rights with the file. And all of that is what's coming together in the Enterprise Mobility Suite. So in terms of next steps here, as we round out the presentation today, I would encourage you to get out there and actually try Enterprise Mobility Suite. We have a free trial that's available on our website. That's microsoft.com/EMS. We have TechNet and MSDN as places where you can go to learn more about the technology. I'd ask you to please give us comments, feedback, rate the session. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time today. Hopefully you enjoyed this Microsoft Virtual Academy with my colleague Mara and I, as we've taken you through some of the technologies that we have out there that allow you to increase your productivity, security in this new mobile and cloud environment with our Microsoft Enterprise Mobility Suite. Thank you very much.